Hello and welcome to How to Play Crokinole, presented by GatherTogetherGames.com. This video will cover how to play the game Crokinole. The video will start with the general concepts and gameplay, and then get into more of the details for the game. The game is played with 2 or 4 players. To play, you will need a Crokinole game set. Thank you to Tracy Crokinole Boards for providing the Crokinole game set used in this video. You can check out Tracy Crokinole Boards through the link in this video's description. The board is set up in the middle of the players. When 2 players are playing, the opponents sit across from each other and will each get 8 discs in a different color. When 4 players are playing, teammates will sit across from each other and each player will get 6 discs. The 2 teams will have different color discs. Players will position themselves in front of a quadrant on the board. The object of the game is to score points. Points are scored based on where your discs end on the board at the end of a round. Any discs in the outer circle is worth 5 points. The next circle in is worth 10 points. The middle circle is worth 15 points. A disc that is made into the center hole is worth 20 points. A disc that scores 20 points is removed and placed in a 20 designated area for scorekeeping. During gameplay, players will take turns shooting 1 disc per turn from their shooting line. There are 2 valid shots that can be made during play. When there are no opposing discs on the board, a player must have a disc involved in the shot and in the 15 circle or touching the 15 circle line. If there is an opposing disc on the board, a player must strike an opposing disc either directly or in combination with discs already in play. If a valid shot is not made, then the shooter's disc and all other discs of the same color that were struck are removed from the board. Red starts this game by having to shoot their discs into or touching the 15 circle. Red is able to make a valid shot. Now that red has a disc in play, Tan must strike the red disc in play for a valid shot. Tan is able to strike red for a valid shot. Play returns to red, who will now have to strike the tan disc in play. If a disc ends up touching the outer boundary line after a shot, the disc is considered out of bounds and is removed from the board. Players will continue to take turns until all discs have been played. Once all discs have been played, the round is over and the score is calculated. Cancellation scoring is used, meaning only 1 player or team will score for the round. To make the scoring easier, opposing discs that score the same amount of points can be removed together. Here, 3 sets of opposing 10-point discs are removed. When a disc is touching a boundary line, the disc scores for the lower point value. Here, red has 2 5-point discs, a 15-point disc, and a 20-point disc for a total of 45 points. Tan has 3 10-point discs for a total of 30 points. Tan's 30 points are subtracted from red's 45 points, leaving red with 15 points scored for the round. The first player or team with a total of 100 points or more wins the game. If a disc fails to end in or touching the 15 circle when no opponent discs are on the board, the disc is removed from the board. If the disc hits another disc into or touching the 15 circle, it is a valid shot. If the disc hits another disc and neither end up in or touching the 15 circle, both discs are removed from the board. If a disc fails to strike an opponent's disc on the board, the disc shot is removed from the board. If a combination shot is made to strike an opponent's disc, it is a valid shot. If a combination shot fails to strike an opponent's disc, all discs involved in the combination shot are removed from the board. The shooting line extends all the way to the point where at least part of the disc to be shot is still touching the player's quadrant line. If a disc leaves the playing surface of the board, it is considered out of bounds. If the disc that left the playing surface bounces back into play, the disc is removed from the board. Any discs hit and moved by the out-of-bounds disc re-entering the playing surface will stay in their new position. If a disc touches or crosses the outer boundary line but does not leave the playing surface and returns inbounds on its own, is considered still in play. That wraps up How to Play Crokinole. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and find more game tutorials by subscribing to the channel, Gather Together Games. Thanks for watching!